Hey, Blue Crew. I'm your host, Blue Baby. We're about to have the conversation that everyone thinks about, but not everybody talk about. Hey, Blue Crew. Welcome back to another episode of Blu Mindz Podcast. I'm your host, Blue Baby, and I just want to say thank you for being here. Whether this is your first time listening or you've been rocking with me since day one, I truly appreciate it. As always, if you listened to our last episode, Surviving What Was Meant to Break You, we talked about the storms life throws at us. We talked about resilience, and we also talked about surviving the moments that could have broken us. But after I finished that episode, I kept thinking about something. I kept thinking about the people who survive but never really heal. The people who smile every day, go to work, take care of their families, make sure everyone else is okay while quietly carrying pain that nobody sees. And that brought me to today's conversation. Today, I want to talk about men. Now, before anyone says, what about women? Let me say this. Women struggle too. Yeah, we carry heavy burdens too. We've had those conversations and we'll continue having them. But today, I want to create space for our men because somewhere along the way, a lot of men were taught that being strong meant staying silent. They were taught to push through, to keep going, to never let anyone see them cry, to never admit when life feels too heavy. And honestly, that's a lot to ask from anybody, men or women. Have we heard someone say, stop crying, or man up, be tough, handle it? Those words may seem harmless in the moment, but over time they can send a powerful message that showing emotion is weakness and asking for help is something to be ashamed of. Then those little boys grow up into men. Those men become fathers and then husbands, brothers, sons, friends, providers, protectors, leaders, men who often feel like everyone depends on them, but they don't know who they can depend on. And while I was sitting with all of that, one fact really stopped me in my tracks. The CDC says men in the United States die by suicide nearly 4 times the rate of women. Think about that for just a moment. And when a person has taught to bury pain instead of speak it, that silence can become a very lonely place. Those aren't just numbers. Those are fathers who won't come home, brothers whose families wish they had one more conversation with them, friends who smiled yesterday but were hurting deeply inside, sons who believe nobody would understand them. That tells me we need to talk about this, not tomorrow, not next month, but today. Because maybe, just maybe, one conversation can change someone's life. So today isn't about blaming anyone. It's not about saying men have it harder than women or pain isn't a competition. This is simply about recognizing that the men in our lives deserves the same compassion, support, and safe place that we all need as human beings. So let's have an honest conversation. So before we talk about what healing can look like, I think we have to start with the question underneath. Why do so many men feel like they have to carry the weight of the world by themselves? That's the question. You know, as I was preparing for this episode, I kept asking myself one question. Why? Why do so many men feel like they have to carry everything by themselves? And the more I thought about it, the more I realized it doesn't start when they're grown. It starts when they're boys. It starts with the little things they hear over and over again, like be tough, stop crying. You're the man of the house now, so you have to handle it. And before they know it, those little boys grow into men who believe they're supposed to have all the answers, that they're supposed to fix every single problem, that they're supposed to protect everyone else while pretending that they don't need protecting too. Somewhere along the way, being strong became confused with being silent. And when you really think about it, the pressure can come from every direction. It can be the pressure of fatherhood, trying to guide your children, protect them, provide for them, and wondering whether you're doing enough. It can be financial pressure, bills, job uncertainty, trying to keep a roof over the family's head and feeling like your value depends on what you can provide. It can be relationship pressure too, trying to communicate, trying to hold a marriage or partnership together, or dealing with the separation, a divorce, or the fear of losing your family. It can be grief, the loss of a parent, a child, a friend, a relationship, or even the life you thought that you would have. It could be childhood trauma that was never talked about, never treated, and carried quietly into adulthood. And it can be mental health struggles like depression, anxiety, stress, or feeling emotionally exhausted, but not knowing how to put any of it into words. So when all of that starts piling up, it can make a man feel like the world is sitting on his shoulders and that he has no permission to put any of it down. And after we name that pressure, we also have to name the truth. Carrying everything alone is not the same as being strong. See, what I don't believe is that strength is pretending you're okay when you're falling apart. I believe strength is having the courage to say that I'm struggling here. Strength is trusting someone enough to let them walk beside you. Strength is understanding that you don't lose your manhood because you ask for help. You gain another chance to heal. And this part is personal for me because as I was thinking about this episode, I wasn't just thinking about grown men. I was thinking about my son, my young man. Young men can already feel expected to be tough, stay quiet, protect everyone else, and act like nothing bothers them. I don't want my son or any young man believing that tears make him weak. I don't want him believing that asking for help means that he failed. I want him to know that he can always come to me. I want him to know that it's okay to say, Mom, I'm having a hard day, or I don't know how to handle this. It's just too much for me. I want him to know that real strength includes honesty. Be honest about what you're going through and how you're feeling. Vulnerability. Be vulnerable. And knowing when you need the support. And I hope every parent listening, whether you're raising sons, daughters, or both, teaches your children the same thing because boys are watching us. They're learning what it means to be a man by what we say, what we praise, and what we expect. Let's teach them that being a good man isn't about carrying every single burden alone. It's about having integrity, showing compassion, treating people with respect, and knowing it's okay to ask for help when life gets too heavy. And I know even as I say all of this, some of you listening might be thinking, oh, yeah, that's easier said than done. Maybe you've spent years keeping everything bottled up. Maybe you convinced yourself that no one in the entire world will understand me right now. Maybe you've gotten so used to saying, I'm fine, that you don't even know how to answer when someone asks you how you really doing. I mean, I get it. But here's something I want all of us to think about. If someone we love was carrying all of this pain, would we even notice? Because pain doesn't always look the way we expect it to look. Sometimes pain hides behind a smile. Sometimes it's hidden behind hard work. Sometimes it's hidden behind silence. So let's move away from weight men carry to the signs that we sometimes miss. Because I want you to be able to pick up these signs, to notice it, and to act on it. Can I be honest with you for a minute? Some of the strongest people that I know are the best actors. They'll show up for work every single day. They'll take care of everybody else, and the whole time they're barely holding themselves together. See, I think one of the biggest mistakes we make is believing that if someone is hurting, we'll automatically be able to tell. No, sometimes it's so difficult. But that's not always how pain works. See, pain doesn't always look like tears. Sometimes it looks like silence. Sometimes it looks like working 12-hour days because staying busy feel easier than sitting alone with your own thoughts. Sometimes it looks like someone who suddenly stopped answering calls or texts. Sometimes it looks like a man who says, I'm just tired every single day. Or maybe he's angry all the time. Maybe he seems a bit distant from you lately. Maybe he's just not himself anymore. And people start saying, man, he has an attitude. But what if it's not really an attitude? What if it's hurt? What if it's really disappointment? What if it's fear? What if it's grief? What if it's a man who's been carrying so much for so long that he doesn't even know how to explain what's wrong anymore? Sometimes we're so busy judging the behavior that we never stop to ask and see what's causing it. I've learned that behavior is communication. Sometimes people don't know how to say that I'm overwhelmed, so they become quiet. Sometimes they don't know how to say I'm hurting, so they become angry. Sometimes they don't know how to say I'm exhausted, so they isolate themselves. So instead of asking, what's wrong with him? Maybe we should start asking, what happened to him? That one question can change the entire conversation. And if you're a man listening to me today, I want you to hear me. If you've been wearing a smile to hide your pain, if you've been telling everybody you're okay when you're really not, you don't have to keep carrying that by yourself. If that's you today, don't wait until it feels so unbearable. Send the text, make the call, or tell one safe person, I need help. The weight gets lighter when we stop carrying it alone, trust me. Now, let me say something to the wives, the girlfriends, the mothers, the fathers, the brothers, the sisters, the friends, the coworkers. The list goes on. If you notice that someone you love isn't acting themselves, don't ignore it. Don't assume that they'll tell you when they're ready. Sometimes people are hoping for someone to notice. Sometimes they don't need you to fix the problem. Sometimes they just need to know that they're not facing it alone. Because one genuine conversation, one phone call, one text message, one I'm here for you can make more of a difference than you'll ever know. So the question becomes, if someone finally trusts us enough to open up, will we make them feel safe enough to keep talking? So now that we talk about noticing the pain, let's talk about how we respond when someone finally let us see it. Let's talk about what happens when someone finally decides to let their guard down. Because here's the truth, it's not always easy for a man to say, I'm not okay, as we stated before. For some men, those 4 words may be the hardest words they've ever spoken. Not because they don't trust you, but because they've spent years convincing themselves they have to handle everything on their own. So if a man opens up to you, please understand that he's giving you something valuable. He's giving you his trust, and trust is fragile. So if someone trusts you enough to tell you they're struggling, don't rush them to fix it. Sometimes we think helping means having all the answer. It doesn't. Sometimes helping means simply listening. Sometimes helping means saying, I'm glad you told me. I'm here. We'll get through this together. You don't have to carry this by yourself anymore. I'm here. Those words can bring more comfort than 100 pieces of advice. And I want to say something to the women listening. The wives, the girlfriends, the mothers, the sisters, please don't make a man regret being vulnerable. If he cries, don't call him weak. If he admits he's overwhelmed, don't tell him to man up. If he shares something deeply personal to you, don't throw it back in his face during the next disagreement. Remember, I said trust is fragile. Protect his heart the same way you'd want someone to protect yours. The same goes for the men listening. If your brother opens up to you, don't laugh. Don't tell him to get over it. Don't make him feel so embarrassed for having emotions. Stand beside him, stand tall. Sometimes the strongest thing you can say is, I've got you. Now, I know there's somebody out there listening who's thinking, Blue baby, therapy it just isn't for me. And you know what? I'm not here to force therapy on anyone. I'm here to encourage you not to suffer in silence. If therapy isn't your first step, then take another first step. Call your brother, call your dad, call your mom, call your best friend, talk to your wife or your girlfriend. What about your pastor? Reach out to your pastor. Talk with a mentor, a coach, or someone you genuinely trust. And you don't have to tell your whole story in one day. You don't have to tell it today. You don't have to have all the answers. But sometimes healing begins with one simple sentence. Can we talk? Or, I'm having a hard time. That's enough. And for the men who pride themselves on being that tough guy, the one who handles everything, the one who never asks for help, I want to ask you something. If your truck started making a strange noise, would you keep driving it for months and hope it fixes itself? Nah, probably not. You get it checked out before a small problem becomes a big one, right? Our minds deserve that same type of attention. Our hearts deserve that same attention. Ignoring pain doesn't make it disappear. Most of the time, it just makes the weight heavier. Asking for help isn't giving up. It's refusing to let pain have the final word. Remember this. So, as we get ready to wrap up for today's conversation, I want to speak straight from my heart to every man out there that's listening, including my son. Maybe you're listening while you're driving. Maybe you are at work. Maybe you're sitting at home after everybody else has gone to bed. And maybe you've been carrying something that nobody knows about. And if that's you, I want you to truly hear me. You don't have to be everything for everybody all the time. You don't have to pretend you're okay when you know you're not. You don't have to suffer in silence just because that's what you've always done. You can always change. Doesn't have to be that way always. And you don't have to earn the right to ask for help. If you're the man who always check on everybody else, who's checking on you? If you're the one solving everybody else's problems, who's helping you carry yours? The truth is, even the strongest shoulders get tired. Even the strongest hearts can become overwhelmed. And there's nothing weak about admitting that. In fact, I think it takes more courage to say I need help than it does pretending that everything is fine. Now, I know some of you are still thinking, I've made it this far on my own. Well, you know what? Maybe you have. But imagine how much lighter life could feel if you didn't have to carry it alone anymore. If therapy doesn't feel like the right first step, that's okay. It's okay. It is okay. Just don't let silence be your only option. Call your brother. Call your sister. Call your best friend. Call your parents. Talk to your spouse or your partner. Reach out to someone at church. Talk to a coach, a mentor. Talk to someone who's completely earned your trust. Healing doesn't always begin in a therapist's office. Sometimes it begins with one honest conversation. Sometimes it begins with one phone call. Sometimes it begins with one text message that simply says, I need you. And if you've tried carrying everything by yourself for years, today can be the day you decide that you do not have to do it anymore. For everyone else listening, to the loved ones, family, and friends listening, don't wait for a crisis. Please don't. If he gets quiet, if he pulls away, he's always seeming like he's angry. He's tired all the time. He stops answering you or just doesn't seem like himself. Trust what you see. Check on him and make it safe for him to speak. That's most important. I have a challenge for you this week. Check on the men in your life. You can keep it simple. I notice you've been quiet lately. Do you want to talk? Or you don't have to explain everything, but I'm here and I'm not going anywhere. Assure him that you'll always be there, that you are his safe space. And if they say they're fine, you can gently say, I hear you, but I still want to check in because you matter too. Not because it's Father's Day or because it's their birthday. Not because something bad happened already. A lot of us like to come when they hear about all the bad things and negative things. Check on him because you love them. Ask them how they're really doing. Listen without interrupting. Remember, I said that sometimes all they need is a listening ear. Listen without judging. Listen without trying to fix everything. You can't always fix everything. You have to wait on other people's time. Sometimes your presence is the answer, just being there. Sometimes your patience is the answer. Sometimes your willingness to simply sit with someone is exactly what they need. And if someone trusts you enough to tell you that they're struggling, protect that moment with all your heart. You may never fully understand how much courage it took for them to say those words. And before I let you go, I want to leave this right here with you. Not as a quote or a slogan, but as something I truly mean from my heart. To every man listening, you matter more than the money that you make, the problems that you solve, that title that you're carrying, or the strength that everybody else expects from you. The people who love you don't need a perfect man. They need you here. They need for you to be present, to be breathing, and still becoming. So don't let pride talk you out of a conversation that could save your peace. Peace is everything. Don't let fear convince you that nobody cares when there may be someone praying for the chance to show up for you. And please don't wait until the weight becomes unbearable before you let somebody help you carry it. And if you are in crisis, or if the weight feels like too much to carry right now, please call or text 988 to reach out to the Suicide and Crisis Lifeline. You do not have to face that moment alone. Reach out today. Start with one honest sentence. Let that be the first step back to yourself, to your original self, to your happiness, to your joy, to your peace. Because you were never meant to disappear under the weight of what you were only meant to share. And to everyone listening, thank you for spending this time with me today. It meant so much. If this conversation touched your heart, share it with someone you love. If this conversation puts somebody on your heart, don't just think about them. Reach out to them. You never know when your message, your call, your presence might become the reminder that they need it to just keep on moving on in life. So until next time, take care of your mind because it carries more than people see. Take care of your heart because it deserves gentleness too. And take care of each other. That's most importantly, because none of us were meant to do life alone. We can't do this alone. We need each other. I'm Blue Baby, and you've been listening to Blu Mindz Podcast, where real conversations and powerful stories take place that'll hopefully have a lasting impact. I'll see you next time, and until then, keep choosing a conversation that could change your life. Take care, Blue Crew.